Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting of July 18th at 4:30 p.m. And I'll call this meeting to order. I just have a couple opening comments. First off, I'd like to really thank the parade committee for all the work they did. And I hope I've got everybody's name I've asked around, but thank you to Bob Shetty, Cindy Thomas, John and Chanel Schaff, Barb Lubinsky, Stacy Gallagher, Tom Zariski, and all the volunteers along the way. And if I've missed you, I'm sorry, but thank you to all of you. Without your guys' help, we wouldn't have had the parade. So gratitude to goes a long way, and we're just so fortunate to have volunteers who really care about the community. So thank you. I would like to actually ask Mauricio to speak. We have a guest at our council desk chambers today, and I'd just like to make an introduction, please, Mauricio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council, Administration. Tonight we have Ziyu Zhang. He is our finance intern here at the town of Drumheller. Ziyu joined us a couple of months ago, and he's here for an 18-month internship that is partially funded by the province. And currently he's working on some projects, helping us in finance, and he's also going around the organization, learning about municipal government. So um, we would like to officially welcome him.
Well, welcome to council chambers, and I understand that one of your requirements is to be part of a council meeting. So welcome, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give Mauricio a nudge, and he'll make sure you get the microphone. So welcome. Thank you. All right, councilors, I have any additions to the agenda? No, all good. So can I get an adoption of the July 18th regular council meeting, please? Tom, Patrick, all in favor?
I move that council adopt the agenda for the July 18th, 2022 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. And seconder was Patrick, all in favor? Thank you. Can I get a motion for the minutes of the July 4th regular council meeting as presented, please? Patrick?
I move the council approve the minutes.
Oh, you're not on.
I move the council approve the minutes of the July 4th, 2022 regular council meeting as presented.
Seconder, please, Stephanie. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll move on to 6.1.1, please, Daryl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So first on the agenda is a request for a leave of absence, a council resolution for Councillor Lisa Hanson-Zacharak. So as a result of unforeseen medical conditions, Councillor Hanson-Zacharak is requesting a leave of absence for an additional 8-week period. This is under the Municipal Government Act, a requirement requires a resolution by council. So I think Councillor Hanson-Zacharak is certainly doing a lot better and has talked about perhaps being able to come back in September to rejoin her council mates. So requesting that council approves the resolution for an additional 8-week leave of absence.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Crystal?
Be it resolved that council permit Councillor Hanson-Zacharak leave of absence due to medical issues as per Municipal Government Act Section 174 Sub 2 with a pay for an 8-week period.
Seconder, please, Stephanie. Comments? All right, I just want to reiterate what I said last time. Although Lisa is off with medical, she still continues to be involved, still answers her emails when she can, and we're just most grateful that she gives us the knowledge she can in the difficult time she's going through. So we're still, even though she's not here, she's still with us, and she's still there fighting for the community. So thank you. All in favor? Carried. All right, let's move on to 6.1.1, please.
Right, so this is a first reading of the new traffic bylaw 1022. So the current traffic bylaw, to which we all are under the guidance of, was written in 2003, which for some of us, like Tom, wasn't that long ago. For most of us, a lot of things weren't invented or significant changes happened. E-scooters is a good example. E-bikes did not exist in 2003. there's a lot of Traffic Act changes. The actual Highway Traffic Act no longer exists. It's now been replaced by other things. So this is Greg Peters, who is taking a well-deserved break, has been working tirelessly to kind of update this bylaw to present it for first reading with the intention of doing public consultation come September. So we just recognize that summertime's not a great time to do public consultation, so we're going to set some information sessions up come September. But we just want to get this on the docket to have first reading of it. So that's what we're looking for a motion of. And I don't know if we want to, again, typical, if we want to, generally we don't ask questions, but when we make a motion of it, but if we want to, before we make a motion, I'm okay to accept that.
Council, do you have any questions prior to? No, so really, yeah, so just for listening, public first reading really is for us to get it on the table so that we can have administration continue to work on it. So there's really nothing that we make any decisions at this point, and that's why we get first reading so they can get working and get it out to the public for input. Okay, so can I get a motion, please? Patrick,
I motion the council give reading to traffic bylaw 10.22 as presented.
seconder, please. Tom, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Let's move on to 6.1.3, please, Daryl.
All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Mauricio to talk about second and third reading of it right now. So Mauricio.
Thank you, Daryl. About a month ago, administration brought this bylaw to council for first reading. Tonight, we are bringing it back for second and third reading. And just to provide an update to council, we have done the required advertisement for this bylaw. So the requirement is that we need to advertise for 2 consecutive weeks, and we have done that. We also had to wait for a 15-day period for any petitions to come through, and we didn't get any petitions. So now it's coming back to council for second and third reading. Uh, we have also included some information on how this bylaw is going to impact our borrowing capacity in the future. And we also included some information on how it impacts the borrowing capacity based on our own policy. And that's included in an appendix, appendix number 3, I believe, or 2, sorry. So tonight, that's what we are asking council to do both readings, and once both readings have been done, it will become a bylaw. Our intention is to borrow as we need the funds. So just because we have 1.2 million doesn't mean that we are gonna need to borrow the entire amount. It also means that we may need to borrow part of it this year and part of it in the second year. The rates that we get will depend on when we borrow. And if there is any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
All right, council, could I please get a motion for second reading on the, from somebody? Tom?
Yeah, I move that council give second reading to penitentiary water booster station borrowing bylaw 08.22 as presented.
Seconder, please. Patrick, comments? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thanks, Mauricio. I was just wondering if I'm not sure if we discussed that. I thought we did of using more out of reserves and borrowing less.
I do not recall that we that there was any specific amount that we were directed to use. However, as I mentioned, the maximum borrowing would be 1.2 million here. Definitely, we can use more reserves and minimize the borrowing for sure.
Thanks, Mauricio.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of further to that, I'm just wondering if you have, considering the increase in interest rates. So obviously we are going to get more money on our reserves because increased interest rates, but it's also going to cost us more to borrow because of the increased interest rates. Have you kind of calculated out kind of the most favorable position for us in terms of keeping reserves or using some or borrowing more or less? And
I haven't done any scenario analysis at the moment. However, what I can mention is that exactly as you mentioned, Councilor Zariski, interest rates have increased. Therefore, our investment revenue is expected to increase. Uh, when it comes to borrowing, uh, we have seen significant increases compared to what it was a year ago or a year and a half ago. Right now, I can mention that we are looking at over 4%, right, for anything that is over 20 years, right? So it is significantly higher, but we also know that that this is something that was coming. It just came sooner than we expected it.
I think, sorry if I'm gonna add one thing. I think further to that discussion about using reserves versus borrowing, we also have other projects in the water area. So at some point we have to borrow money anyway. And so in a case like this, the opportunity to give us that potential to borrow up to the 1.2 million is there. It does, as Mauricio said, it doesn't mean we need to borrow that. I think that we have to do a bit of an analysis when it's time to borrow it, what's the optimum amount to borrow versus some reserves. But knowing that we have some other projects that will also require reserve funding, we want to make sure that we're financing the optimal amount for all of our projects. So,
Crystal?
Is there any way to lock in that interest rate right now?
Locked interest rates?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, when we borrow, yes, it is locked. Basically, if we borrow for 30 years, that interest rate doesn't change.
Anybody else? Patrick?
Yeah, I'm just curious, within our agreement with Nihil County with the Churchill Water Co-op, is there any ways that we can sort of recoup through maintenance or operation costs, or does that fall into our utility rate analysis that we're doing?
I will refer that question to Dave.
Sorry, wrong button. The agreements with the water co-ops are pretty tight on what is eligible and not eligible for cash. We have started communication with the penitentiary and the Churchill Co-op to ask if they have or willingness to contribute any funds to this. However, at this time, we haven't heard back from them yet. So,
and further to that, we do charge a higher rate to Churchill than we charge our own internal customers. So, so that goes to pay for some of the costs of maintenance and operation. So.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor, second reading. Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading, please? Somebody? Crystal?
Motion that council give third reading of penitentiary water booster station borrowing bylaw 08.22 as presented.
Seconder, please. Patrick? Any further comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay, let's move on. I assume Mauricio, 6.1.4, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Similarly to the previous bylaw, we are bringing this bylaw back to council for second and third reading. First reading was done on June 20th. And again, we advertised for 2 consecutive weeks, and then we had to wait for the 15-day period. All that has been met, and now the bylaw is ready for second and third reading. This is for the flood mitigation, a maximum of $5 million. Again, we do not intend to borrow the entire $5 million if unless we need to. In the current year, uh, we don't anticipate that we are going to have to borrow the entire amount. So most likely it will be split for among several years. And now, if there is any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Can I get a motion, please? Stephanie?
A motion that council gives second reading to 2022 Drumheller Flood Mitigation Borrowing Bylaw 9.22 as presented.
Seconder, please. Tom, comments, anyone? All in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading, please? Tom?
I move that council give third reading to the 2022 Drumheller Flood Mitigation Boring Bylaw 09.22 as presented.
Seconder? Crystal? Comments? Tom?
Yeah, given the circumstances of escalating costs for everything, we decided on this amount a number of years ago. And we found that the overall flood mitigation project costs have escalated significantly. Do you foresee the potential that the town might have to increase this amount over the next year or two or three?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Zawicki. Based on the information that we have right now, we can see that costs have increased significantly. And as much as possible, I am aware that we would like, we are asking for the province and the feds to contribute more, but we know that there is always a contribution that the town has to add to that. So yes, I believe that this contribution will be increased in the future. At this moment, we don't know yet what that would be. What administration will be thinking perhaps is basically using some reserve funds and some borrowing at the time when the time comes. Again, we don't know how much that would be. Perhaps our CAO has any further thoughts to my comments?
So what we've been approved at and what we've said since, day one is that it's a $55 million project. And so of which we have to supply 10% of that. So we have 50 million in funds from the other two orders of government, and our 10% contribution is 5 million. And so that's what we're saying we are right now. I think that if we do get extra funding that allows us to do more work or complete, then it's at that point we'd look at as Mauricio has suggested that an opportunity whether we would come back with an additional borrowing bylaw or reserve funding or some combination. But for right now, what we know for sure from the province and federal government is we have $50 million in funding and we're spending the 55 and that's it. So.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of third reading, please. Carried. 6.2.1, please, Dave.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is a request for decision regarding award of a contract for demolition and remediation of some of the buildings that we've identified for destruction in the town, or demolition, sorry. Based on the tender that was sent out, we're able to award to different contractors. So we're proposing to award 3 contracts. One comes in low enough for my sign authority. The second is within the CEO sign authority. The third one, the largest, is the old hospital combined with one of the residents that have been purchased by the flood office. That is a high enough value that it requires to come to council. That is specifically the old hospital and the 25 Roper Road resident. So between the two of these come to a combined value of $751,000 and $350, excluding GST. We had multiple bidders on the projects. These McCollman and Sons demolition is the lowest on both of these sites. Upon review with Collier's project management, we've identified that the values are within line of current market values for demolition and for the portion of final asbestos and hazardous material abatement that's needed for the demolition. The value is actually quite good for the hospital. It's $14 per square foot, whereas the market average is in the $20 plus range. So it is actually, it doesn't look very good based on the full dollar price, but it is what the market is currently asking for demolition. Given council's strategic priority on getting the hospital down and its age, administration is recommending that we go ahead with this because waiting is not something that's going to necessarily make this cheaper to do. And if we continue to wait, the building will remain there as a eyesore and a derelict. We appreciate that the cost is quite high, but this is the course of action that we need to do at this time to take the building down. The only other real alternative is to keep a hold of the building as is and hope that prices for demolition work come down in the future and try again in the future. So that is where we currently stand at this time.
Thanks, Dave. Can I get a motion, please, council? Tom, go ahead.
With pleasure, your worship. With great deal of pleasure. I move that council award the remediation and demolition work for the old health center and 25 Roper Road to McColeman and Sons Demolition Limited for a total cost of $751,000, $350, excluding GST.
Seconder, please. Stephanie, comments? Crystal?
I know we've discussed this before, but I just want to confirm the demolition costs cannot be part of the flood mitigation. That's correct?
That is correct. This is the old hospital is distinct and separate from any of the flood work.
Oh, I was talking about 25 Roper Road.
25
yeah,
Roper Road.
sorry.
Then yeah, that cannot be part of the
Okay.
Yeah. It can be part?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Demolition costs for anything to do with flood mitigation is a
Okay.
compensable, reimbursable expense.
So that will be coming out of our $5 million.
Yeah, so we're paying
Contribution.
10% of the cost of that
10%,
demolition
okay.
part, right? And the province and federal government pay the other 90% for that.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, concerning the old health center, when it is totally demolished and the site is cleaned up, about how much would that site be worth? In terms of that will belong to the town and the town could sell that to basically make back some of this amount. Any idea how much that, like how big is it? Is it an acre? Is it?
I honestly don't have that information. I would have to ask our assessors if they have or our realtor agent if they have a assessment of what the resale value would be once it's down. I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
In essence, yeah, I don't really need a figure. What I'm getting at is that would uh, basically deduct from this total amount, which
Correct.
we would get some of that money back, right?
Correct. The cost of the purchase of the site and its demolition and the work for the remediation are all being charged to the land account, which once we sell it, that will, whatever we get from the sale will offset what's been charged into the land account.
Second question, is it possible to instruct the demolition company to do the annex walkway area first? Because the SL4 construction is like almost immediate, and that has to be gotten out of the way before they can actually begin the construction for the SL4. So could that be kind of the first thing that we could mention to them?
As soon as award is made, we'll have a discussion with McColeman and Sons regarding their work schedule, and we'll be identifying that portion is a priority due to the adjacent work.
Excellent, thank you.
Patrick?
I just want to say I'm happy to see these two projects go ahead, and I just need a little bit more clarity on the other three. Are there something that we will still pursue, or you said that's
So the other two contracts for the other three locations are going to be are being divided up. I believe, if I remember correctly, yeah, the Nakmine Hotel and the other flood residential site will be going to Titan Contracting. Their total dollar figure is of amount that would be within the CEO's approval limit. And then the last site, sorry, the last site is the consortium, which would be awarded because that's at a low enough value that that's within my signing authority. So those two contracts don't need to come to council for award. They will still be being awarded. It's just that they won't be coming to council for approval.
Awesome. So that means all 5 sites will be dealt with this season?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, and I just want to just reiterate, we had no local contractors submit bids on
We
this
had-
work.
We had no local contractors submit on the work. We did have local contractors attend the pre-tender meeting. However, they declined to submit a bid for the full amount. I believe one of them may have submitted as sub to one of the other contractors, but I'm not sure which one.
Okay. And so just because the listening public will want to know, so our plan is really to get all these properties down to just being cleaned up, and then we'll reevaluate which ones will be sold, what will be done, what's the plan, and that will come out next fall or something.
Correct. Once the buildings are down, then once the buildings are down for the Nakmine, the consortium, and the old hospital, that land will become available for other uses. So the economic development officer and our realtor would have them as available for resale. The two properties, I believe, under the flood need to be converted into environmental reserves because of their location. So those won't be available for resale, but the other ones will be available for reuse and resale as appropriate.
Okay, excellent. So we can let people know somewhere in the fall what we're figuring out then. Okay, awesome, Dave. All right, anybody else? Okay, all in favor, Tom? Okay. Now he's gonna be asking you what date that hospital's going down. All right, well done. Okay, 6.2.2, please, Dave.
So this is a request for decision for support for an application to Trans-Canada Trail from council. So Trans-Canada Trail is a national trail system that is in existence. It goes, for all intents and purposes, coast to coast. There are several portions of it in Alberta as well. The administration has identified the criteria on the trail is that it is a linear pathway system. So you can't have circuits, but you can have a straight through of the jurisdiction. The CN rail right away that we're converting over to trail is quite literally a perfect application for this. But we have to apply to Trans-Canada Trail Administration to become part of their trail network. As such, they have an application process that then goes to their board. Their next board meeting is in September, and we are prepping the application. They would like it by the end of this month or early next month so that their administration can review it before their board votes on it in September. One of their items, though, is that they would like the municipal government, specifically the council, to show support, to have a motion in place showing support of the application. So that is what this is for tonight, is council to show support of the administration process of applying to the trail system. Once we are part of the Trans-Canada Trail system, there is some criteria that they have in place regarding signage and the uses of the trail, which match up for active transportation. Sorry, I forgot what word I was thinking of there. And then they have some criteria regarding signage. However, they do also, along with that, have grant opportunities for maintenance and new construction of trails. So it gives us opportunities for funding support and national support on the advertising of the trail, which helps travel Drumheller on the tourism and bringing people in. So that's why administration feels that it's good to go ahead with this. So we need council support to motion to show support on that.
Motion, please, council. Go ahead, Tom.
I move that council supports the application to the Trans-Canada Trail for a local trail extension along the unused CN rail lines within the town limits.
Seconder, please. Stephanie, comments? Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, through the Trans-Canada Trail, I don't know, organization, I guess you call it. Is it it's like a nonprofit organization? And they also solicit donations, things like that. So
Yeah.
will that be part of our advertising?
The Trans-Canada Trail Association is a national organization that is basically acts as a nonprofit, but I believe they do get some federal government funding and that and along with donations and other agencies is how they get their funding that they then distribute out to their member communities and trail sections. They supply the grants are available to both to the people that operate or build the trail. So whether it's a volunteer organization or a municipality, that they can apply to that. Their only criteria, as far as we've been able to tell, is that we follow some standard guidelines for signages and guide pathing regarding, but that would include our logo as well as their own logo and some signage along those lines.
So they don't have any kind of objection to, like our idea is kind of organizations, individuals, whatever, sponsoring a kilometer or
They
sponsoring a washroom or sponsoring a table or.
they had their own grant programs that actually did that previously. So we're basically following a model that they've previously used.
Patrick?
Does, I don't know if we're quizzing you on their policies here, but because it's leased land, is it considered permanent enough as a project?
We explained to them when we've already had a conversation with them, myself and Julia Fielding from Travel Drumheller. We flagged to them where it was coming from and they raised no objections to the organization. It sounds like they have similar arrangements under other municipalities within the trail system. We are still kind of learning exactly what the criteria is for them, which is what we're working through on the application process. So
Anybody else? I appreciate you guys forward thinking, Dave, and getting ahead of us on this. That's awesome that you're working on it. So thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we now will be going into closed session, the management of personnel, FOIP 24 advice from officials. So can I get a motion, please, council? Crystal?
I move that council close the meeting to the public to discuss items under section 7.1 of the July 18th, 2022 agenda as per FOIP 24, advice from officials.
Seconder, please. Stephanie? All in favor? Carried. So thank you to everyone for being with us today. We will now go into closed session. Once we're done, we will be finished for the day. So wishing you all a fabulous week. Enjoy the coolness today because I think it's going to heat up again. So take care of yourselves and we will chat soon.